Hello, this lesson is from page 378 in your student book. The objective is student will be able to solve systems of equations by substitution. And your essential question is, how would you find the coordinate answer by substituting the equations? So what this is really saying is, in this lesson you'll be given two equations. We're going to do some substitution, and you'll find that the answer is one coordinate that solves both equations. And actually, I hope you find it as fun as I do. I think it's a good one. So just some basic outlines. Substitution is a method used to find the exact solution. It's a coordinate, and that coordinate answers both equations. On the graph, this particular lesson you're not graphing, but if you were to graph both equations, that coordinate would be where the two equations intersect, where the two lines intersect. But again, you're not graphing for this one. All right, so if you're given the directions that say solve and find what is the one x and y that makes both of these equal, you would solve it by substituting. So they're telling us what y is. And so because they're saying y is 2x, we can just plug 2x in for y in the first equation and then solve. So let's set it up this way. That says 2x, which used to be our y, but that's what y is, equals x minus 5. Now we want to move this x over so the x's are together on one side of the equal sign. So you would say subtract x. And if you do that on the right, you have to subtract x on the left. And so now you have 1x, because you see here 2 minus 1 is 1. 1x equals negative 5. They crossed out each other here. So now we know what x is. We can take this negative 5 and plug it in right here with this x, because we're saying x is negative 5. Well, 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And so the answer that makes both of those equal is negative 5 for x, negative 10 for y. And here it just said your next step, and I verbally said that. Sorry. All right, this one is a little easier because they're telling us y is already negative 18. So this will just be one step finding what x is. So because they're telling us that y is negative 18, we'll plug in negative 18 for y, and then we set it up like this. Negative 18 equals negative x plus 22. So here again you say, oh, I have numbers on both sides of the equal sign, and we want to combine them on the opposite side from the x. So you would say, subtract 22, those cross out. You subtract 22 on the right, you need to subtract 22 on the left, and you would say, same sign, add and keep the sign, so you would have negative 40 equals negative x. Now remember, we can't leave x negative, so we'll just multiply it times the negative 1. The two negatives make x be positive, but if you multiply this side times negative 1, you need to multiply this side times negative 1, and so we find that x is 40. And then your final step is to create your x and your y to be one coordinate. And so we have 40 for x and negative 18, which they just gave us, for y. All right, here again, they've given us y, so this will just be a one step. Go ahead and substitute negative 2 in for this y, because they're telling us that's what it is. And we're trying to find what coordinate answers both equations, as if when we graph both of these, if we graphed both of these, it would be the line where they intersect. And you can tell y is always a negative 2. And so that's kind of nice. It's a horizontal line going across where all the y's are negative 2. So anyway, negative 2 equals x plus 8 Again, you want to keep your numbers together on one side and the variable on the other side. So subtract 8, they cross out. Subtract 8, same sign, add and keep the sign. So x is -10. And your final step then is to put that as a coordinate. Always leave it as a coordinate in this lesson. So you're -10 for x, -2 for y, and then you're finished. All right, a word problem. This gets a little more tricky, but don't let it scare you. But let's try this together. A total of 75 cakes and cookies. So right away you'd hear that and say cakes and cookies together equals 75. And we'll just make one be an X and the other be a Y. We're donated for a bake sale. Here's where you have to process. There were 4 times as many cookies as cakes. So think of it as, oh, I have to multiply 4 times cakes to make it equal to what cookies were donated. I know it sounds a little bit opposite. Before we used to read straight in a row and make that 4 times the cookies. But we're actually saying 4 times the cakes to make it equal to the cookies. So we're setting it up like this. Our X are the cakes, the Y is the cookies. So cakes plus cookies together are 75. And then we said the number of cookies donated were 4 times the number of cakes. So now we can just solve it like we have on the other slides. Substitute that 4x up here for y, because we know that y is 4x. So we can just substitute that right here. And so we have x plus 4x is 75. That's 5x. Divide by 5. Divide by 5 to get x alone. Whoops. Sometimes this is a little glitchy. Sorry about that. So here we go. X is 15, which means the cakes. There were 15 cakes donated. So that tells us, then go back and plug it in. Well, if there were 15 cakes, the cookies were 4 times that. So 4 times 15. That means there were 60 cookies. And then your coordinate would be 15 cakes and 60 cookies. All right, last one. Tom cooked 45 hamburgers and hot dogs. So remember, that sounds like hamburgers plus hot dogs is 45. And then it says he cooked twice as many hot dogs. So that means, I color-coded the yellow to say X. That means you'd multiply 2 times the hamburgers to equal the number of hot dogs because you want them to balance. Then go ahead and substitute y for 2x up in this equation. So now you have what is equal to y here. You get 3x equals 45. Divide by 3, divide by 3. And you get 15 hamburgers. And then you would take your 15 and substitute it in here times 2. 2 times 15 is 30 hot dogs. And then you'd have your coordinate. All right, the last slide, if it helps you, I'm thankful. These are the steps. That would be a good summary. If you feel like you can put the summary in more of a concise way, go ahead and use your own summary. But otherwise, that's it. Have a great day.